Good morning to everyone connected virtually. We, the Rotaract Club of SRM Easwari Engineering College, take immense pleasure in welcoming all to the webinar Secur-IT and also organizing it in collaboration with the Rotaract Club of RVCE and Rotaract Club of Pilani. We are honored to welcome our eminent speaker of the day, Mr. Vinodh, Cybersecurity Assurance Evangelist, to the webinar. It's my pleasant duty to introduce the speaker, Mr. Vinodh, to all watching the live stream. He is a globally recognized cybersecurity evangelist who holds a master's degree in business administration and has 20 years of experience in designing, developing, and securing web-based software systems. He is leading many technology teams at Wipro Limited to build security application and infrastructure. He had received many global awards such as Golden Bridge Award, Network Security Product Guide, and many more. He had also shared his knowledge in framing the course curriculum of IIIT Street City, holds several industrial certificates, and many more feathers in his cap. On behalf of the organizing committee, I welcome the experienced and an apt person for this webinar. Over to you, sir.
Hey, good morning, all. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, sir, you're audible.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you. So thanks for that great introduction, and thanks a lot for having me in here. So in the next 1 hour, what I would aim to cover is, and first of all, thanks a lot for that introduction. And the next 1 hour, we will actually cover about quick cybersecurity primer, which will actually give you a view of about the awareness on the cybersecurity, what you should do, what you should not do, so on and so forth. And we will quickly touch base like what's the hacking and impact. We will take a case study, how and hacking impact can actually bring a country down. We will take an example of Estonia. Estonia is a country in Europe. So we will certainly talk about what happened in 2006 in Estonia. And today, if you see, like, Estonia is the leading technologist in blockchain. We'll talk about that. And then finally, we will touch base on what could be a career path in hacking. These are the 3 primary topics that we would actually cover. And if you have any questions, do post it on chat. Time and again, I'll probably look at the chat and see how I can actually respond to it in this call. If not, I can do that as a takeaway, and then I can respond to the questions a little later. Right? So with that said, before we jump onto the slide pack, are you able to see my screen?
Yes, sir.
No. Fantastic. All right, so let's talk about, all right, so what is, cybersecurity, and how does it actually really impact an individual or an organization, and who gains what, or what's the actual motivation in here? So if you pick up a few examples, you're all using mobile phones today, and how many spoof messages you get today? For example, though you would have actually marked as do not disturb, but still you get like, a lot of marketing messages. So without even stepping into the store, you get those messages, right? How is that possible? It means someone else has actually shared your data. For example, it could be as simple as your mobile phone, or you could have registered your mobile address, your mobile phone, or your name, your date of birth, or your email ID in some or the other form in any of your websites, in any of the websites that you might actually visit. So that's where, like, you're sharing your information. It starts all, like, with sharing your information with known people or unknowingly. So that leads to, where they actually publicize your information. And there are certain ways to do that. Like, there are certain legal ways to do that. There are certain illegal ways to do that. For example, like, if you go to if you know any of the customer support executive in any of your telecom providers like Airtel or Vodafone, I've actually heard you pay X number, you pay like, 2,500 rupees and you get like, 1 lakh mobile phone numbers. So it all boils down to the people. The people should be like, fairly very responsible, like, where they're going to like, give their numbers. And that's what we're going to talk about. And how would you know that your number is actually being leaked or your personal information is being leaked? What are the avenues of the leakage of your personal information? And how do we, block it? So that's what we will actually see in the first session, or like, the first part of the discussion. And what benefits the hackers, right? So by getting all your data, they're going to sell your data, in the market. So this is where, like, we call it as a deep dark web. Few data, like, your personal information can be sold, on the internet. But if it is going to be like, your credit card information or anything with respect to health records, these are all like, fairly a very good privacy information. So these are actually sold in the deep and the dark web. And in the dark web, again, like, there are, apart from your data manipulations, so there are like, drug dealings which actually happens. There are a few ammunitions which are being sold out. So those are the things that actually happen in the deep and the dark. End of the day, it is all for money. The hacker, or probably the cracker or the criminals, like, want to gain data so that they can actually make use of data to make money, right? Or even like bring some countries down. And if you have, like, we'll certainly talk about a few examples, like, during the session. It is all for money. What happened during even your last presidential election in the US? There were either Hillary Clinton's machine email was actually like, compromised, and that was there in their estate for almost for a few decades. They were actually just looking at it. They were just like, spying on it, and then finally when needed, the information actually came out. So typically, there are top vectors that one can, like, get your data from. So those are like, typically from your web browsers, your messages, chats, your mobile devices, and your web applications. Because in mobile applications today, when you actually install an application, they ask you for permission to access your camera. They ask you to give some permissions to, access your phone contacts. Why is that necessary? And this is typically like, you're providing an admin access to your system. For example, if you're going to, like, include a guest user, you're going to give an admin access to a guest user. Is that really needed? Because, like, the more the excessive user rights, you don't even know how your data has been, stripped out of your mobile devices, like, especially your contacts or even your photographs. So that can be like, stripped out. So you have to be very cautious of what you're installing and how you're installing and what kind of rights that you're actually going to give. With that said, fairly, it's quite certain that, we have to be very cognizant of using the systems and the data around it. Because like today, you do all your mobile banking on your phones, right? So and you do fund transfers, you add your payees. So these can, like, and the authentication mechanism that is being used as your PIN. So these are the information that can be, like, key logged and can be stripped off. And they can hackers can certainly impersonate you, and we'll see that like, in few examples, like, how they actually do it. And there are a couple of videos that I'll actually play from a social engineering standpoint, like, how they can very easily impersonate you with knowing a few details of yours. Could be like, first name, last name, your date of birth, and your email address. And so like that's where like more banking applications, if you see, they have actually like introduced defense in depth, like multi-factor authentication. When you do a funds transfer, if you have done it, they do a fund transfer. First of all, you have to log into your website, the banking website, enter your username, password, and when you do a fund transfer, they again ask for an authentication. So this is called as a multi-level, multi-factor authentication, because with the authentication, you give your username, password, and you have the second level of authentication. That's provided. That's because of safety. So that's what technology, like comes in and helps you to avoid the avoid, or probably at least protect, not avoid, probably at least try to protect of the threats and the damage that it can actually cause you. So we saw what the avenues of threats are. Like, predominantly your emails. Today you get a lot of emails. These are all could be marketing emails, or some emails could certainly entice you, saying, "Hey, you have won a bounty," or you've been a user of Amazon for long, and here is your gift voucher. So it could be so enticing, and and it will not even like it'll entice you, and then probably you would actually go and probably click that. So then you will know it is actually not Amazon.in, but it goes to something else. So emails are the first one that where you could look very legitimate email, but still like you have to look at all those URLs from where it has come, so on and so forth. Because on the click of an URL, it can even download a kind of a malware or even a Trojan into your system. And number two is like when you go to like any of those marketing websites, there are a lot of infected ads that actually come in. You will actually see a lot of pop-ups coming out. So that's nothing but your spywares, wherein without even knowing like what those ads are, so you might actually end up clicking it, or even like once when you click those ads itself, your spyware gets downloaded. And like fake websites and applications, and also like the online gaming sites. Today there are quite a lot of online gaming sites that you have. Few are free, but nonetheless, most of the free games which are online like are not the best coded one. I mean, what I'm trying to say is best coded is it could be most of them are open source, and they are actually not well tested, and there are like time bombs, or even like there are spoofed code inside that. And if it is going to be an online gaming system where you are going to like pay and use, so you're going to like disclose your information, such as your name, your date of birth, your email address, sometimes your credit card information as well. And then finally, when you probably like try to put any antivirus, your firewalls, any kind of perimeter security that you might actually use, the weakest link in security is social engineering. What social engineering is, people try to interact with you and then try to like extract information. So a small example that you can actually pick up is a kind of a maid servant who actually comes to your house. She goes to like 4 or 5 houses. She just observes like what happens in your house, and she actually like talks about gives that information to someone else. So or like someone else who wants information from you or about you or about your house, they're going to like ask the maid servant maid. She's going to tell like this is there are four people living in the house, what they do, what they don't do, so on and so forth. That's social engineering. Today, like most of the IT employees, if you see, at least 30% of them are not happy with their jobs. Most of them are disgruntled because they don't get their pay rise, or their promotions has not been given, or even like they're not happy with their supervisors. So if you actually tap onto these guys, and then like slowly try to become a kind of a friend, and they can actually give you enough information and give enough insider information of an organization, and that's how like all your information leakage that actually happens. And these are the information which have been capitalized by the hackers or the criminals, so as to like gain access into your systems, right? So while we actually have seen avenues of threats, let's see how do they really propagate into your systems, right? Could be laptops or could be your mobile phones, so on and so forth. So barring the people aspect, from a technical standpoint, if you look at it, you have, I mean, these are all terms that you would have known for long now. Like, it could be viruses, worms, Trojan horses, logic bombs, and rootkits and botnets. Let's see individually like what these are. A virus is a program which has an extra code, that can infect your another program. So as to the idea here is to idea is to spoil the system or spoil any of those exes from not being getting executed. So as to it changes the end goal for a virus is to just crash your computer. So the impact could be you would actually lose some data in case if you have everything on your laptop or your desktop. If it's going to be a cloud, if you're using it in a cloud, it's not a problem because the cloud provider would actually take care of it as long as you have enabled your backup and recovery services. But nonetheless, a virus is nothing but where it can replicate itself, and what all it can actually do is try to malfunction any of the key executables. Could be your .exe files or could be your .dll files, that is the dynamic link library files, so as to crash your hard disk. Worms, generally it happens across the network, and it is a kind of an independent program that could be downloaded from your emails, or whenever you open your text file, you can actually again attach a kind of a worm in that. It need not need to be attached within a file. It can it can spread by itself. It can replicate itself. It can multiply, and within a network, it can affect any such systems within the network. So again, the end of the day, so if it is going to affect your network, it's going to try to bring your network connections very slow, and your end of the day, your network would be choked. So that's what the damage a worm can actually do. And again, from a Trojan horse or a logic bomb, that will actually help the hacker again to malfunction the a software. For example, there's something called as registry in your in Windows. There are some registry entries for every application that would actually go in. So if you actually do a regex, regex in your command prompt, so it'll actually open a window, so wherein you have your minor service configurations within those. A logic bomb or a Trojan horse would actually try to malfunction that, so that your systems does not actually work. And also the logic bomb can be kind of a stored procedure, which can actually hamper your database, where it can actually erase all the data in your database, right? So these are the other revenues of logic bombs and Trojan horses, how it can actually impact the system. And then off late, you would have actually heard about something called as ransomware. Generally, what criminals do is typically like logic bombs. These are actually sent through emails, and they are self-replicatable programs. What they do is they generally encrypt your system. So they try to get what those systems are very critical for you, where they are. They get those information through social engineering or through reconnaissance attacks, and they know what kind of data that you actually have in your system. And what they do is they encrypt the entire system, and the organization, then they demand money from the organization or from the individual. So that's what a ransomware can do. And even of late, in the last year, they were huge legal ramifications that Michigan utility company had to pay the state because of ransomware coming in, and they denied paying the money to the criminal, and he did not give the data back to them. So hence, they had to rely on their backup and recovery systems. They were able to retrieve the backup, but it was they lost actually one day's records. So if you actually lose a day record, according to US laws, for one record, the legal ramification is $363. So they lost a few millions of records that actually ended up paying in billions. So it can actually turn your company down. So that's what the impact is. So again, it's quite popular now, wherein they actually encrypt your data, and then if they have to decrypt that particular decrypt your data, end of the day you have to pay some money. And phishing emails are they start as from an email standpoint, right? Phishing emails, though the email could be very legitimate. We'll see certain examples now shortly, and one should be very cognizant. As I said earlier, the message could be very, very enticing. You have to just see from whom it has actually come, and look at look at the domain. It has actually come from matchstar.bg, and look at the link where it actually goes. It's completely irrelevant, and these are the spots where it should actually give you some light of thought of should we have to really click that email or not. So it can be so close when you actually when it here says there has been they might actually need your security details. Possibly you have to click on the unlock button. When you actually go to the unlock, where the email is from, probably it could come even from your university, right? And look at the link where it goes. It goes to chocofacil.com.br, support Drake software system. This is where they actually create all the fake websites to try to get all your personal information. Because here it says it is very clear. It says your account has been suspended due to errors in your security details. So it's quite evident they're going to collect all the security details of yours in this particular website. So and then they can actually take that information and then use it for anything else. And here in this scenario, LogMeIn is a famous third-party remote logging system. This is actually used for all remote logging, and it might be very, very evident that this is the template that LogMeIn uses, and this email looks very, very legitimate. And if you actually look at in fairly very detail, right? So if you actually look at this URL, I've actually zoomed in here. It says LogMeIn. Generally it is actually LogMeIn. So they just added n. So you will not be able to pick that differences in those emails. It is so you have to very, very be very careful when you actually look at a URL. When you read that URL, the email is very legitimate. If you actually look at it, this is how you get an email from LogMeIn. It can you might actually get these emails day in and day out, and you will be very confidently going and clicking on that particular URL, but unfortunately you would actually click on a phishing URL that can actually take you to a different page. Then only you will actually realize you're on a different page, and by then it could be a little late, because the worm or the virus would have actually been, or a spyware could already be installed in your system. So let's look at this email as well. It's quite legitimate, but it's little scary as well. Why I say that is it's actually the Eastern elevator is the from ID. But if you actually look at where R and N are almost very close. So if you actually look at here, it says East Me. So Eastern and East Me, where R and N can actually resemble M. So that's the difference here. So you have to be this is how the hackers think, how they can actually impersonate an organization so that they can compromise you as an individual to provide your personal data. So these are like, few examples of your phishing, your phishing emails. And again, you could actually have the from address says like, eBay billing department, and where they're actually asking for all your privacy information, your social security number, credit card numbers, login IDs, passwords, emails, so on and so forth. First of all, how is this possible? I hope you would have configured your email addresses, right? So you are still using a POP3 or an IMAP account. These are a 30-year-old technology. Just understand, emails were what identified or probably like discovered and came to use 30 years ago, and that's where like POP3 and IMAP accounts are there. Like now, the recent days, like after Office 365, it's a different story. It's changing it. But from a hacker standpoint, what all he has to do is he has to impersonate or like pretend that he's from a logical source. So you will be able to change your name if you're using your POP3 accounts. You will be able to change in this scenario. Just take this as an example. You have your eBay billing department. How can I actually do that? So you just change your name to eBay billing department. So when you receive your email, it'll actually impersonate that you are sending email from your eBay billing department, and the email address can be anything else. The email address can be yours, as long as if you're not going to double click and see that email address, you will not know. So that's if you're a regular eBay or an Amazon user, so you will actually not know that. So until and otherwise you don't do a double click, and when you actually see those, you will be able to understand the email is a phishing email by reading the content of the email, the tone of the email. If you're a regular Amazon customer, so if there are any promos which are actually coming out, you will actually make it out by reading the content of the email. So once you know, like if they are going to demand any security details or any user information from you, so you could be very certain that the tone of the email is a phishing email. So that's about phishing and the various ways, like the hackers think to send you a phishing email in order to get a virus into your system, or probably like impersonate as a different organization to get your security data. Right. And then the next step is around social engineering. So we actually spoke about the social engineering earlier. It can be your maid at home, or it could be your friend. There could be another friend, a common friend who wants more details about you. So these are all the social engineering activities, right? And it can be, from a hacking standpoint, it is actually used in a different level to gain access to, we call that as a privilege escalation. So wherein a user of third level trying to gain access of an administrator, right? So he uses he could actually use various techniques in order to identify or probably do certain social engineering activities, ask various questions in order to get those details. So I'll probably play two videos now to understand what social engineering is and how weak we are as human beings, or probably even trying to be fairly very social with people, and without our knowledge we are actually communicating our passwords. I'll just play a couple of videos now. Just let me, when you are able to see my screen. Are you able to see my screen now? Just a quick verification.
Yes, sir.
Fantastic. I'm just playing this video. Just let me know if you are able to hear the audio as well.
We've been hearing a lot about cybersecurity lately, largely because of what happened to Sony. Companies and individuals are more concerned about the safety and privacy of their information than ever. President Obama has unveiled a number of new proposals this week to crack down on hackers, and he plans to address this in the State of the Union speech on Tuesday. And it's great that the government is working on this, but the truth of the matter is we need to do a better job of protecting ourselves. The most popular password in the United States is password 123. And as long as that's the case, we're vulnerable. So today we sent a camera out on a Hollywood Boulevard to help people by asking them to tell us their password. And this is how that went.
We're talking about cybersecurity today and how safe
Hey guys, sorry about it. I got dropped off, so I wasn't sure, where I got dropped off. So let me just share my screen. I was about to play a video. Guess that's where I got dropped off. Is that right?
Yes, sir. Will it be okay if one of our office bearers share the video, because in your video the video quality was not good?
Oh, is it? Go ahead. Yeah, sure. Yeah, you can share that. So you can. There were two links that were actually sent earlier, so you can actually play them. Yeah.
Sure, sir.
Companies and individuals are more concerned about the safety and privacy of their information than ever. President Obama has unveiled a number of new proposals this week to crack down on hackers, and he plans to address this in the State of on Tuesday. And it's great that the government is working on this, but the truth of the matter is we need to do a better job of protecting ourselves. You know, the most popular password in the United States is password 123. And as long as that's the case, we're vulnerable. So today we sent a camera out on the Hollywood Boulevard to help people by asking them to tell us a password. And this is how that went.
We're talking about cybersecurity today and how safe people's passwords are. What is one of your online passwords currently?
It's name and the year I graduated from high school.
Oh, what kind of dog do you have?
I have a Chihuahua Papillon.
And what's his name?
Jameson.
Jameson. What's school?
I went to school back in Greensburg, Pennsylvania.
What school?
Hempfield Area Senior High School.
Oh, when did you graduate?
In 2009.
Oh, great.
It's like my cat's name and then just like a random number.
Okay. Have you had this cat for a while?
Yeah, she's my childhood pet.
Oh. And what's her name?
Her name is Jolie.
Jolie. So like a password of yours would be Jolie and then a number.
Yeah.
Like number 1.
Like my birthday.
Oh, when is your birthday? Oh, nice. What year were you born?
95.
Oh, great. So Jolie 6/12/95.
Yeah.
Got it.
So you mean to give my password right now? No, I cannot do that.
But we all want to know what it is so we can tell you if it's strong or not.
Oh my goodness. Let me think. Okay, one is Tel Aviv. Yeah. 468, and then Israel. It's but it's for me it's strong enough.
Ireland 1234. Gemma 123. Spelled Gemma.
Well, most of them are Italian.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah.
Like,
So
what? Like what's a good Italian password?
my grandma's name.
Name.
Maria.
Maria. So Maria is your password?
Oh yeah, now you know my password.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Well, the important thing is they learned their terrible lesson. Hi, I'm Jimmy Kimmel. Did you know there are things other than pornography on the internet? Watch them on the Jimmy Kimmel Live YouTube channel. So I invited him to the world's best hacker to try to hack me, show me where my vulnerabilities are.
Would you mind playing the second link as well?
Yeah. 1 minute,
Sure.
You want to do a sample phishing call? Phishing is quick notification. And basically, what you do is extract information or later.
Let's do it.
Okay.
Who are you gonna call?
Maybe I'll call your cell phone provider and see if I can get them to give me your.
I bet they're good. I bet they have my back. But yeah, go for it.
I'm gonna scoop from your number. That's all I can call you.
Okay.
Hi, I'm so sorry. Can you hear me okay? My baby, I'm sorry. my husband's like, we're about to apply for a loan and we just had a baby and he's like, get this done by today. So I'm so sorry. I can't call you back. Log into our account for information and I can't remember what email address we use to log into the account. Baby's crying and help me. Awesome.
Just 30 seconds.
Email.com.
Just to get access to my personal email address.
Now, if I needed to add our other daughter on our account, so she could call in and make changes, how would I need to go about doing it? You would have to send me a secure pin through the text. Yeah. Well, the thing is, I don't think I'll be able to receive a text message if I'm on the phone. Oh, I'm not on there either. So I thought when we got married, we added me.
Jess uses my girlfriend's name and a fake social security number.
5127.
Set up her own personal access to my account.
Wait, I'm sorry. So there's no password on my account right now. Can I set that up?
She even gets the support for my password.
Thank you so much for your help today.
She just basically blocked me out of my own account.
I'll get her set after this. All right. Thank you.
Oh, shit. So they just gave you access to my entire number.
You're gonna have to go on and change your password now. Yes, my name.
And all it took was a crying baby and a phone call.
All right, that's fantastic. So thanks for playing that video. See, bottom line, I'm not sure how many folks have great internet connection, but you can certainly these are the videos in YouTube. You can certainly have a quick look at it. The bottom line here is to get your personal information. Number one, either talking to you, that's social engineering. Either talking to you to get your passwords out, or impersonating you with a call center folks to see to get your personal information. So end of the day, the idea is the hackers can actually use the data for anything or everything that they want to. So it's about each individual to be more protective on their data, so that they're not vulnerable to any such kind of enticing emails or enticing offers, so on and so forth. Even now, when you go to any of the supermarkets, they ask your name and phone number to drop, and they say you have a lucky draw. So you really want a lucky draw, so it's up to your decision that you have to probably pick and choose if you want to take it. And with that said, let's understand. We understood first step was to understand what are the avenues of attacks. right? And how they can, propagate. What are the mediums through which they actually propagate? And now let's understand, who actually does it, and what are the different types of people who actually do it. Generally, when in a hacker community, there are three categories. So the first one we call them as script kiddies. The second one is the crackers, and the final one, or the third extreme level, are the criminals. So generally, the script kiddies are nothing but who are very inquisitive on computers, who wants to try to experiment more things, but it'll probably copy pasting, trying some softwares which are open source, trying to execute those programs, trying to make few modifications of it, but it does not actually have much of legal ramifications. So those are the script kiddies, or especially the guys who actually start programming or a kernel level programming, bash level programming are these script kiddies. And the second guys are the hackers. Generally, what they tend to do is they write codes. They understand the methodologies of how data can be extracted or how a website can be compromised. You could actually verify OWASP.org, OWASP.org. So those are it's a open source platform or a community that actually publishes what are the vulnerabilities across the web applications or mobile applications, so on and so forth. So with that, the end of the day, as we said earlier, the hacker is trying to get the data out. So it could be from injection attacks, where they try to it's performed on the databases, where they try to get your database information, or probably use buffer overflows mechanism so that they can crash your system, or try to gain the passwords. So again, they try to cause harm from a application standpoint or from an infrastructure standpoint to bring them down. But again, there aren't much of ramifications except for the system administrators, who have certain issues with that. And then finally, we have the criminals, where they buy and sell the personal data. And we spoke about the malware and the malware. So the criminals generally get the malwares onto your systems and demand money. And there are a lot of statistics that say a lot of things. But however, here is a quick look at it. So for one email, they actually earn at least nearly 2,000 per email, and $8 on a 10,000 PCs. So I mean, if you actually look at it, one malware, if it actually if it succeeds, he'll earn close to $100,000 US, which is nearly 75 lakhs in Indian rupees. So that's about the hackers. So now let's see how do we know if your system is compromised. There are various avenues, and again, now we would have known that your system, if there is a system would have been hampered, it could be because of a worm, or it could be because of a virus, or it could be because of a spyware, or it could be because of your Trojan or a logic bomb. So you should first know how it has been compromised. But you identify that through various symptoms, right? So either first of all, your system will become very, very slow, right? And sometimes your disk space could actually go enormously high. And also when you do, if you're using Windows, when you do a control or Dell, when you go to processes, you could actually see there are unknown files or unknown processes which are out there running on. You should possibly look at it and then probably end those processes. And generally, your computer certainly slows down, or it could actually reboot, so on and so forth. And if it is kind of a malware, you would certainly see your address bar is actually changed, and you will have excessive pop-ups. There'll be huge pop-ups coming in, out and going. So, and also this will actually lead to your poor system performance. So these are the various means and ways that one can actually identify if their laptops have been really been affected. Again, if it is going to be on your mobile phones, your mobile phone will certainly get heated up a lot. And also, the applications, the communications you are send and receive icon would always be going on. So you have to just identify whether if your mobile is getting heated up, or your data exchange has been a little bit more. So you can actually go look at what kind of application usage is the place where you will actually go to look at which applications have been used of how much. So based on that, first you will actually identify what kind of what has actually affected your system. If it is a kind of a worm, virus, or spyware, or it's a kind of a Trojan horse. Based on that, you will take the corrective action. So the key best practices is to first have appropriate antivirus and anti-spyware. So here are few that you actually see on the left-hand side are few top providers. And now CrowdStrike has come in. CrowdStrike has actually is an antivirus and an anti-spyware tool, and it is a cloud-based platform, and it yields a lot of benefit than a kind of an antivirus and anti-spyware which is there on the market. Its name is CrowdStrike. And point number two is ensure you protect your system by applying the upgrades which are out there with Microsoft, or if you're using Apple. Often upgrade if there is a new OS which is actually coming. They come in for two reasons. Either there are new features that are being introduced, or they would have actually fixed their existing security patches which were flawed in the previous versions. These are the two reasons why you get a security patch. So ensure you have your patch being updated on your system. And remember, passwords aren't pass around words. So don't share your password with anybody. So today, if you see, even in organizations, generally folks, the system administrator folks who are on shift or who are on off shift, or a friend who's trying to come in with a friend, you keep sharing your passwords. So just ensure you don't share your password. And also you saw those videos how easily people are able to guess the password by asking correct questions, and you giving responses to those correct questions. They will be able to guess your password. Just ensure the passwords that you actually have are very strong. A strong password means it should be bare minimum of 8 characters. That will make people think about it, or in case if you're writing a brute force attacks, it might increase the number of combinations. So hence you should actually have a capital letter, a small letter, a numeric, and and a special character. So now you would know what's the reason of proposing a kind of a complex 8-digit character, minimum of 8-digit, and with the 4 different variances of passwords that will actually help you to save your account details with you. Then finally, let's understand what defense in depth is. Today, we take an example, your house as an example. First, within the house, you might actually have if I have to, or if a criminal has, or a thief have to come in, you have a lawn at the front, or you will actually have a portico at the front of your house. Then the second level of defense is you might actually have a grill gate, and then you would actually have another gate for him to get into your premises. And if you have to get into each of the houses, then you have your proximities as different doors, and also you have your CCTV camera that you can actually install within your house to monitor it. So these are different levels of depth defense. And then again, if you take an example of a castle, you cannot actually approach a castle immediately, right? So there is a huge ramp which is actually built in front of the castle. For you to reach that particular castle itself, for a thief, it might take bare minimum 15 to 20 seconds, and then there are huge walls for him to breach and then probably get in. So get into the particular castle, and again there are certain levels within each of the layers that then once he actually gets in, there are different layers of security which has been applied within a castle. So this is what similarly that you'll have to do in a typical scenario of your organization, or or even in your home scenario. So wherein if you have to end of the day the holy grail for a hacker is to get that particular data out of your system. So for that, you could actually have a host-based firewall on your system. Ensure you have the anti malware and antivirus being installed, and also equip with them with all your security patches. So a hacker has to compromise the number of levels of data, the number of levels to get to that particular data. So this is what we call it as a defense in depth in the security field. So as long as you make it more difficult to get to that particular data is what defense in depth. So that's where your security controls come in. Right. So and then finally, you have to be very wary of the pop-ups that could actually come out, and ensure you always don't click on yes, no, or cancel. Always ensure you click on the particular cross button in order to close all the pop-ups. So with that said, again, the key mechanism that you may have to possibly think about is how do you whenever you get an email, just ensure by reading the content, if it actually gives you a sense of not from a legitimate user. So just ensure those the emails are from the legitimate guy by looking at the from address, and don't click the URL immediately. Just hover your mouse around the URL. You will know to which URL the link is actually pointing you to, and then you can actually click on it. So that's what you would actually do. So should certainly keep calm and surf safe. That's the thing. Now you know what has to be done. This brings us to the end of the first topic that I wanted to cover. So just if you have any questions, you can actually probably put in the chat box, so I can jump on to the second session though. Right. So we just also had a quick question. So we just hit on the top of the hour. So just wanted to check. Can we continue for 5-10 minutes, or do you want to pause out here?
We may continue, sir.
Okay, sure. Thanks for that. So I'll just take another 10 minutes because I had actually prepared for 1 hour. So I'll probably take another 10 to 12 minutes, and then off you go. Yeah. So now you've understood what how an attack can surface, what are the avenues of threats, and how it can actually happen, and how you can actually avoid it. So I'll just I'll give you a quick example of what it can actually impact countries, and this actually happened in 2006 to a country called as Estonia. Estonia is a country located in Northern Europe, and in 2006, right, their banking was 99% online, and all their government websites were online, and they conducted their elections nearly elections online, and close to 6% was an internet voting in 2007, early 2007. And if you see their tax were being filed online almost 86% in 2006. So they were considered as one of the leading countries where they've actually made best use of internet. And if you actually look at it, their security was fantastic. They were actually using public key infrastructure chips, smart card chips in their ID cards, so on and so forth. So they recently, Estonians actually came out recently came out of Soviet Union recently, and as part of Soviet Union and very close to Russian proximity, and when it was like USSR, Soviet Union of Russia. So the Russians had actually established their embassy in Estonia, and there was a statue which was left or probably mounted in Estonian crossroads, and every year they call it as a V-Day, and on that day, all the Russians go and pay respect to this particular statue, Stalin statue. So there were a few ramifications within Estonia saying, since they have actually come out of USSR, they should possibly remove this particular statue. And the next V-Day, they decided that Russians should not actually enter Estonia. And this was this is where the whole topic or the political ground actually started. And the Russians was almost outburst, and then they said there's not going to be wars this time, so it's going to be completely on a they'll do the cyber attacks on Estonia. And it started off in 2 days. They got access, that is on a Saturday and a Sunday. They were able to get access to the systems. This was predominantly through viruses, malwares, and through the phishing equipments. And moreover, Estonia had actually bought all these switches, routers from Russia, so they know which switch is vulnerable to what, and they had all the information of which organization actually uses which kind of switch and which kind of routers, and that became fairly very easy. And they actually launched a DDoS attack, and then finally they were able to hack all their government websites, and this brought the country to a stay still. They were actually using all their internet banking online, and not many people wanted to visit the bank itself. And here are the timeline of events that are how it actually happened, right? So, and it started off with the denial of service, DDoS attack that we call as distributed denial of service, and it actually grew to a massive scale on 28th of April. And typically, the attacks that were actually used were phishing, email spamming, website, and then botnets. So again, in May they actually did a 3 week of attacks. Again, bringing the entire country stalled for almost for nearly 2 months. And just believe, I mean, you should see this happened in 2006, and today with the COVID situations, how we are, how things have actually changed, even the way of working, the way of learning, and the way of studying. So it has completely changed the entire landscape of each individual, right? And that's what actually happened in Estonia as well. And they were not able to control anything, so they called through their NATO premises, NATO agreements. They called Germany, Finland, and Slovenia, came in for the help for the incident response. And then by July 2008, this started in April 2007, and only by July 2008 that they were able to clean the entire legal ramifications of their internet farms. And at the end of the day, what's the lesson learned is they do not actually have a great business continuity planning. That's what the BCP is, and lack of effective monitoring. So you should keep monitoring your systems around what's happening, so on and so forth. That's where I said, just if you know that your system is slow, just press your Control-Alt-Del. Look at the traffic going out, coming, and look at the processes. If you're actually using any Linux versions, so just see your process IDs, so that you should be able to kill those processes which are unnecessary, so that your system is all up to date. And then finally, what all did was it made further US the great beneficiary by establishing your homeland security. So these are the great ramifications or the impact that can actually come through hacking. So it can even bring a whole country down. That's what it can actually do. And then finally, into the third session that I want to cover was if you're actually interested in getting your career path in hacking, how would you do it? First understand, you can be either a builder or a breaker in a hacker community. So what we saw was the script kiddies, and you had a cracker and you had a criminal, right? So those guys actually fall into your the breaker community. And then what builder is builder is kind of when applications are developed. So you ensure there are enough security controls that are actually applied in terms of developing the software, right? And the next step is the guys who are between the hacker, neither a hacker nor a builder nor a breaker. So is the defender. So who is generally in between, a kind of a cat on the wall, who can talk about builder and breaker, but not good in both. So typically a builder would actually have a skills on how do you set how you can set a policy and standards, education awareness of what are the do's and don'ts from a cybersecurity standpoint, and you can become a kind of a security architect by performing threat modeling. Modern threats are nothing but looking at the websites and understand or probably give a perspective of how an attack can come, or what would be a easy piece for a hacker to enter into your system or break into the application. And then you perform static code analysis, that is running various checks on your code so that you can identify vulnerabilities and then fix them. Or dynamic analysis, security testing is nothing but during your runtime. Static analysis is done on the code base that you would develop. A dynamic application analysis is nothing but running the probably doing the tests on the runtime of your applications. So during your runtime, when you actually use it on your browsers, that's where your runtime is. So you apply security controls on the runtime of the application. DevSecOps is predominantly quite automation, and then your vulnerability assessment and governance. So when it comes to breaker, there's nothing your penetration testing, reverse engineering. That is if you have a DLL, you try to reverse engineer it, add your additional code, and then probably redeploy the DLL. So that's the reverse engineer who has an ability to convert a .class file to a .java file, or a .class file to a .c file. That's what a reverse engineer is all about. And then social engineering is what we actually saw during our session. So these are the guys who will actually have the qualities of a breaker. And then finally, monitoring and incident response would be the different guys. So these are the various venues where you can develop your skills. And how it can actually help you is with these skills, generally you are on a safe zone when you are a builder, right? And if you have to be innovative, so you have to gain more experience in penetration testing and various dynamic and static methodologies. And then finally, if you have to move to a niche guy and become a kind of a great hacker, you should actually gain all these skills. So this is how you will be able to drive your career path in hacking. So the first step is to acquiring you should certainly know development. So you should possibly understand a few development languages. It could be start off with .NET or Java, and you should certainly have a good knowledge of C as well. And then other probably package softwares which can actually deal with system internal commands, like either it could be Python, Perl, or Ruby. Right. So when you actually start off with these baseline skills, you understand what your development and the secure coding means is. and then you can actually move on to the penetration testing, and then into the advanced penetration testing. And then this it can enable you through its few certifications. For students like you, you should start off with CompTIA. This is your the certification, maybe probably by end of your second, third, or fourth year, if you are able to do the CompTIA and then EC Council, the first one CEH, you're of a great advantage, because when you actually move out of your college, so you would actually know wherein the lot of organizations are picking people and then probably doing a training, and for a particular resource from a fresher to become productive, it takes bare minimum 6 months. But in your case, you will always be ready when you go out of the college itself. So that's the advantage that it can actually give. So to that, you should start off with the CompTIA certification and then probably move on to EC. That's pretty much what I had, guys. And I would quickly stop my screen. And yep, that's pretty much I had. And thanks for having me. And look forward to talking to you in further other sessions and few other topics if you want to reach out to me. Thank you, guys. Have a good day. Over to you.
We'll now be having a question and answer session now. So kindly use the raise hand option so that the host can unmute you or post your questions in the chat box. So we have actually received few questions from our team earlier. Would you like to answer those? So we have actually received few questions from our team earlier.
Yeah, please go ahead. Yeah, sure, go ahead. Yeah, I was actually muted.
Yeah. So how using a VPN can actually protect you from protected data from public network? How does it protect you from the public network?
No, see, from a VPN standpoint, what it does is it can encrypt the channel. It can encrypt the channel, and it gives you an ability to, secure your network and ensure, you at least protect the access of or publicly use, right? So we'll have very few people, only people who need to know would actually access your system. VPN, yes, it has various benefits of encrypting your data, and only the people who should know will know about know or will have the access to the system. VPN is a good level, but the thing is, you may have to. The data resides within the box. VPN is only the channel, so you should ensure that the data within the box that you have, or a VM or your laptop, must be encrypted. So you should actually apply more controls. VPN gives you the channel-wise security. Yes, that is possible. But we spoke about defense in depth. So the holy grail is the data. So you should actually apply appropriate security controls to protect the data. Hope that answers the question.
So we have a question in chat box. Is it important to learn Java and C, considering that Python has been replacing it in a majority of industries?
Python, I would say, it is fairly very good to understand concepts for sure. Java or C will, you take your ATM machines, right? Do you think it's running in Python? The answer is no. It still runs in C. and you will actually have a Java runtime on it. So if for you to get or probably the transformation will take a long time. So for that you should certainly be in touch with Java and C for sure. Python gives you a great advantage of where if you have to talking to the system internals, Python gives you a great way. So if you have to understand Python or do very well in Python, you may have to possibly understand one OOPS programming knowledge. You should certainly have it. Then only that will actually make it more easy to talk about the system internals.
So does antivirus actually really protect our PC, or it is just very limited?
Well, see, it is all signature based. If anything, known signature, and it's a reactive security. Antivirus is predominantly a reactive security. The reason is antivirus understands or probably protects your data, or it protects your laptop or a computer for known patterns, because it's all pattern matching. Antivirus is nothing but all kind of a pattern matching which is being used inside the technology. So it is very good in stopping what is known. But if there are any unknown or new viruses which are coming in, that's where it actually doesn't have a capability of identifying it. And hence, always when there is a new virus which has come in, you have to run an update of your antivirus, and then you have to rerun. Then it will actually show those viruses which are already there.
So we have another question in the chat box, why cannot we trace the location of the hackers? Like when in the case of a ransomware, we pay the hackers for the information. They pay in the case of ransomware, we have to pay these hackers. Then why cannot they be traced?
Yeah. So the technology and the underlying technology which is being used, right, are far more sophisticated than what any organization today possesses, or not only organization, even banking transactions, or even your federal agencies. And moreover, we spoke about deep and the dark web. There's something called as Tor browsers, the onion router that we actually call it as TOR. It gives you an ability. This is predominantly used. This is what is predominantly used in the deep and the dark web. When you actually use a kind of that technology, it's going to throw you everywhere. And the deep and the dark web is primarily used only for this, where they actually be under a cover to do certain things. And that's what, with that said, it's technology, right? So you can actually use it either ways. And every time, a hacker will actually employ a new way of theft, right? So having controls for everything will be fairly very difficult, rather than you can control yourself. That's the best thing that you can actually do. That's the reason you're not able to identify or probably trace the a person who's actually doing it. Or probably on a lighter note, you're not even able to trace Nityananda today. Where is he, right? So people are saying, though he is actually publishing a lot of videos in the YouTube almost every day, you're not able to trace him. So this is the mechanism of the deep and the dark web. One small example of it.
So we have another question. So are there any chances that these hackers can have access to our cameras and mic and access it without us knowing?
Not really, though. It will actually need, you will have to possibly have installed an application. And if that application goes rogue, that's the reason when, as I initially said, when you're going to install an application on your system, you are invariably are giving them access to your camera, access to your phone contacts, so on and so forth. So just be wary of those. But actually, you will not, they will not actually have access to your cameras until otherwise you start that particular application. If that application is running in the background, there are chances, yes. But if the application is, ensure you don't have any applications running in the background. Then in that scenario, I mean, any applications will not actually have their access to your camera. And if you're actually using a laptop, ensure you have a lid on your camera. So just close it. You can actually open it only when it is actually needed, so on and so on.
So what is actually bash scripting? Like, is it important?
Yes, it is actually important. When you bash scripting is nothing but like if you have to work with your internal commands. I mean, from a system internals on, especially from a Linux standpoint, or if you actually could use any flavor of Linux, Linux it would be Fedora or your Red Hat, so on and so forth. So bash scripting is nothing but it is again a set of instructions that can that will be executed in a sequence way in a sequential manner, or it can even call another bash script and bash script, nested bash scripts as well. It is good to know because most of the system administrators will use scripting a lot because they actually work with the system internals a lot. When you work with Python, and if you want to know, or if you want to be a kind or want to have your career within hacking, so you should certainly know what bash scripts and how the Python internals. I mean, using Python, how do you actually access the bash scripts, so on and so.
Okay. So another question we have, sir. So it's a layman question. Like, if our PC is hacked, what are the immediate steps do we have to take?
Okay. We saw certain symptoms, right? So with those symptoms, if you know that your system is actually hacked, first thing is go to the process ID. If you're actually using your Windows systems, do a Control-Alt-Del, go to the Processes tab, see what kind of different applications are being installed. So ensure you actually uninstall them, and then monitor the traffic. There are a lot of either you can actually look at the CPU spike by usage, or there are softwares such as Wireshark. You just install those software Wireshark. It will only monitor where the traffic is coming from, where the traffic is going out, so that you can actually ensure by then you will actually know which software is actually going rogue, so that you can go and uninstall the particular software.
Thank you so much.
Spyware is also another, not a problem. So one final thing, spyware is another component which can let you know whether your system is actually hacked or not, and it can actually block those traffic from going out. Sorry.
Thank you so much, sir. Finally, we would actually like to conclude with a vote of thanks. It is a pleasure to extend our gratitude to Mr. Vinodh, the speaker of the day, for delivering a highly informative session on a necessary in need of topic. Thank you, sir. The session was eye-opening and enlightened our minds to pave a secure path. We would like to extend our sincere thanks to Rotaract Club of RV College of Engineering and Rotaract Clubs of Pilani for collaborating with us. A special mention to the technical team who worked tirelessly for the smooth conduct of the webinar. Last but not the least, I would like to extend our gratitude to all the participants who engaged actively and made this webinar a huge success. Thank you all.
Fantastic. Thank you, guys. Thank you for having me. Wish you all the best. Thank you. Bye-bye. See ya.
Thank you, sir. Bye.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.